Welcome to the Moving to Online GOS Claims webinar. My name is Debbie Roberts and I work in the communications team here at PCSE, and I'm going to be facilitating today's webinar. So just before we make a start, I just wanted to run through a couple of things with you. We just advise you to have the chat function open. So if you do think of any questions as the webinar is ongoing, please do pop them in there. Do have some PCSE colleagues that will be on hand to answer any questions when they can. If you can see that a question's already been asked and you would also like an answer to that, instead of duplicating the question, just pop a like on there, then we know that we'll try and get that answer prioritised for you. And please just try and keep all questions related to online GOS claims. We won't be able to answer any personalised queries that you've got ongoing at the moment. It is just simply for online GOS claims, and then obviously moving on to online. So just to let you know, the meeting is being recorded today, and a recording will be made available on our YouTube channel once we've gone through and edited the video and taken everything out that we don't need. And we will also include some questions and answers from what's been developed from today's session. Now, we will be showing you a system demonstration, and I just wanted to let you know that any details that you do see in today's webinar, they have just been created for presentation purposes only, so there is no real data that's being used in today's webinar. But yeah, so let's get started. So just to run through some quick introductions. I've already introduced myself, which is Debbie Roberts, and I work in the communications team at PCSE. And helping me today is Salma Paveen, and Salma is the operations manager in the Ophthalmic Payments team, and Salma will be kindly going through giving you a PCSE online system demonstration later on. And I've also got Kat Van Paris that's also works in the communication teams with myself, and she's going to be helping me out in the background. She'll help with the Q&A, and if anything happens with my internet or anything, she's my backup help. So we've also got some other PCSE colleagues as well to support in the chat if need be. So as you can see, we do have quite a packed agenda. I'm going to run through some slides just to basically explain what's changing, what the benefits are for going to PCSE online, a couple of tips on getting started. Then we've got some short videos to show you. I think they're about a minute long each, so they're not too long, on just some reviews of people that are currently using PCSE online. And then I'll run through some hints and tips for you. And then once I've done that, I will hand you over to Salma that will run through the system demonstrations. And once we've done that, we'll run through some questions and answers. We have had some questions sent in before the webinar, so we will run through those first. And then if we've got time at the end, we'll have a live Q&A as well. So we'll try and answer any questions that are in the chat. Okie dokie. So what's changing? So from the 1st of January 2024, it will be a contractual requirement that all GOS claims are submitted electronically. Now that'll be either via PCSE Online or through a practice management system. So basically that means, in a nutshell, that as of January 2024, we will not be able to accept any paper claims that you submit. Now, if you do a site test on the 31st of December 2023, that will be fine. It's anything from the 1st of January 2024, we will no longer be able to accept paper claims. Okay, so this webinar has just been designed just to show you a little bit about PCSE Online and hopefully give you a little bit of confidence that when you do move over there, it's going to work really well for you. So let's have a look. So are there any benefits? Yes, there are benefits to moving to PCSE Online. Real-time validation flags any errors or omissions before submission. So when you're completing your form, it won't allow you to have any errors. It won't allow you to submit the form. Where obviously with a paper form, you could type anything on there, you could write anything on, and then it could get rejected for whatever reason. So going for using PCSE Online, it will mean that you've got fewer rejected claims. And you can also check the progress on your claims 24/7. You can simply just log into your PCSE Online account, and then you'll be able to check all the claims that are there, and you'll also get a status on there as well, so you'll know where your claims are up to. And essentially, it's going to save you time in the long run. If you've been having rejected claims through paper, you're not going to have to use all your time, obviously, redoing the paper applications and sending them through to us. It also means less paper and less postage, which in theory will also reduce your carbon footprint. and we class it as a safer alternative to paper because PCSE Online is a secure system. Anybody could get on the post or anything like that. So with everything being online, it's just the safest and secure option for you. Okay, so getting started. So we do consider the following for if you're going to submit through PCSE Online or if you're going to use GOS, that you have a device that's connected to the internet in your reception area. That will allow your staff to be able to easily pre-populate forms. We recommend either a desktop computer, a laptop or a tablet. And also having a device with an internet connection in your testing room that will allow your performer to log in and fill out the required information that's needed straight away. So PCSE Online is accessible on most browsers. We do just recommend that whichever browser you are using at the moment, just make sure that it's fully updated and it's the latest version available on your device. And also, if you are using a couple of different devices, we just recommend that you use the same browser. So if you've got a laptop, a tablet, and a PC, we advise that if you're using Chrome on one, that you follow suit and use Chrome on them all. So it just keeps everything consistent for you then. Okay, so one of the key parts of moving to PCSE Online is being able to capture a signature electronically. So you'll be able to capture patient signatures, optometrist signatures and contractor signatures. It will remove all paper from the system and you simply just need a touchscreen device such as a PC, a tablet or a mobile phone. If you don't have those, that's fine. You can use a touchpad or you can even use the mouse that's connected to your PC to write in the signature. You can also use the QR code that will be generated. You'll be able to scan that and then you'll be able to change that into a touchscreen device to be able to capture the signature. Okay, so once you are on PCSE Online, I think most of you should have access now. I know a lot of people will be viewing statements through PCSE Online. But basically what you need to have set up to be able to assign all the other roles that are required at the practice is the user administrator. Now, the user administrator is responsible for assigning roles to everybody else at the practice. I am going to run through all the roles and what they're used for on the next slide. So the user administrator role is called User Management Organisation, as you can see that I've put there on screen. Now, if you feel that you do not have that role at the moment at your practice when you log into PCSE Online, if you could pop our portal inquiries team an email with your name and email address, and you'll be able to get your user admin set up if you email the team. But like I say, you should already be set up on PCSE Online, so I believe. But like I say, if you do have any issues, just email this team and they'll be able to support you. Now, the roles that you're going to need in PCSE Online will differ depending on what role that person does at the practice. So GOS performer role, so that will be for ophthalmic performers who will be completing the performer declaration on GOS claims and CET claims. The GOS claim manager role will be for reception and dispensing staff who need to view and enter data on GOS claims. Contractor signatory will be for GOS contractors and their designated signatories who will be completing the contractor declaration on GOS and CET claims. OPH statement view, so that's for users permitted to view monthly statements. That's either using PCSE Online or EGOS. And supplier signatory, so that's staff that are involved in dispensing and/or collections who are not contractor signatories. That'll also be needed by staff in dispensing only outlets as well. And then the last one will be for head office, so it's OPH head office. So if you're part of a chain, you can assign a user at head office that will be able to view all statements for all the practices. Okay, so I'm just going to play you a quick video now. So this was a testimonial from somebody when we went live with PCSE Online and they've been using it for a couple of months.
I'm Stuart Mitchell. I've been an optometrist for over 30 years. We've been using PCSE Online for approximately 3 months. The setup's easy. We've gone down the route of using a touchscreen laptop. I didn't buy new. It was relatively inexpensive. It works for us. The software is actually very easy to use. All the main paper forms are now online. It's very intuitive, very straightforward. As long as you can type on a computer, you can use it. The big benefit is that you can't submit a form which hasn't been filled in correctly. Once that form is sent down the line to PCSE, the claim will be accepted. We also have statements online where we can check back on GOS 1s, 3s, 4s and 5s, so individual claims can be counter-checked very easily. We're not having to post things, and that saves time, save a little bit of money. PCSE Online works very well, and as a small practice it's probably the simplest approach. I would certainly suggest, if you get the chance to look at PCSE Online, it is worth looking at and just trying it out. It's worth doing it.
So, while you did see some snippets of PCSE Online, like I say, Salma will go through and give you a full system demonstration in a moment. So I just wanted to touch on moving online with a PMS provider. So if you are going to be using a practice management system, we just ask that you please contact your provider to ask when you can start submitting your GOS forms electronically via their system, because you will need to receive an activation code before you can start doing that. And if you are using eGOS for your PMS for claims, you will need to provide appropriate users the all-PH statement view and GOS claim manager roles in PCSE Online. It's just so they can start viewing the monthly statements and track the status of the claims. So we are currently working with the following PMS providers, as you can see on screen. But if you do have any more questions around that, then please do pop that in the chat, because we do have Sam that will be able to answer anything for you. And we've just got another quick video for you about eGOS providers, so I'll just play that for you now.
eGOS is a way of confirming patient's identity using the PCSE system, using a tablet to capture their signature and making sure they're eligible for an eye examination. It's been very easy to set up. Within 2 hours, we were up and running.
The reception staff have been very confident with it because it was already integrated into the software we were using. It was very simple.
We're no longer using the blue forms, so that's a great saving. All that time is now saved and where we can concentrate on looking after the patients.
It's definitely streamlined our practice. We're now able to log directly into the system, see the site tests that we carried out, and there's an itemised transaction at the end of the day, and then payment comes through swiftly.
The practice management system and the PCSE website work really well together, and I'm really pleased and wouldn't think twice about recommending it.
Okay, so before I do hand over to Salma to run through the demonstration with you, we've just got a couple of hints and tips that we wanted to run past you. So just let you know that you can pre-populate the GOS form prior to a patient entering the store, so that could hopefully save you a little bit of time. Performer and contractor details are pulled through automatically, so you don't need to enter those details. Contractor's signatory can bulk sign GOS claims under the claim submissions rather than signing GOS forms individually, but that does only relate to site tests, so it'd be GOS 1, 5 and 6. Performer, contractor signatory and the supplier signatory have to log in with their details to sign the relevant sections. And finally, if you have several branches, your user can have one login, but you'll need to assign them to a different branch, so to each individual branch. Essentially, every branch is an organisation, and you've got to sign into each separate one just for security reasons. But okay, so that's it from me. I am now going to hand you over to Salma, that's going to provide a system demonstration with us. Are you on with us, Salma?
Yeah, evening, Debbie, evening all.
Good evening, you okay?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. So, guys, I'm going to share my screen. It's a test account, like Debbie said, so there's no real data. They're going to be random names I'm going to make up, and I'll try talking you through the different aspects that we're going to run through. So this is our test login. You'll have your own username, your own password set up. Like Debbie said, if you don't already have one, we can get that arranged. When we sign in, depending on which store you have access to, I've got 2 dummy stores set up. I'll go into the main one, which I have all access for. You select yours. And again, if you have multiple organisations, you need to ensure that that list has all the different organisations on there. User management, I'm going to start off with quickly and really quickly touch on it for those that will be user administrators. If you want to edit any access, this is where you would do it. You would have a look at who's under your account. It should usually bring up only your own. I mean, hopefully I don't have too many people. I've not really checked this bit. I should do. But you would load it up. obviously I think because we don't have excessive amounts, but these are the people that are associated with our organisation, but we internally get to see everyone pretty much if required, because we can support in updating them. But you would put the name of the person usually, or have a look at the list, and you can manage who's on there, when did they get logged in last, do I want to remove them, do I want to deactivate them. We will automatically deactivate accounts. So there's a lot of things that you could do. I'm just going to log on this one, although it's deactivated. You could check what access they have. Now, if you have a performer that needs access, you can give them the performer access. If you want to have another person within your organisation with user administration, you can give them user administration. So it's just, please do follow this and ensure the appropriate access in place, because that will impact on their ability to sign forms or have forms accepted. But it's a pretty simple process to follow. And you don't have to look at everyone. You could just put your name in here and it will find the person that you're looking for. So if we go back to home, just so I can show you how it be. So you'll usually have some tiles. If you've got the performer list access, it'll show there, but you know, ophthalmic is the one you want to go into. You'll click on ophthalmic and you've got various options. Obviously, you've got make a claim, search a claim, statements, the supplies options, PCSE staff won't ever touch and get used. And then you've got your claim submissions, which is what Debbie referred to do with bulk submissions for the site tests. Now, I'll go to make a claim first, and then we can do a search of one of the claims. Starting off with GOS ones, because the majority of the forms that we have are GOS ones. Quite straightforward. Whoever logs in, their details will log in. So we've set up a dummy test performer here. It's not a real one. You can put a reference in, but that isn't a mandatory field in this instance. If you wanted to have a specific reference linked to your system or your record, you could add that in there. The title isn't mandatory, so it'll allow you to go ahead. But let's say if we want to fill this in, I always do the date just to remind myself what I'm doing. So like I said, I'm just making up the details here. So you're filling in the first name, the surname. If there's a previous surname, you can put it in. You search the address, it brings the address here. Always ensure the address is brought up here. If it's not there or you can't find it using the postcode, you can enter the address manually here also. You can type in each individual bit, because sometimes maybe it's a new property and you need to do so. Date of birth, I'm just going to do an under 16-year-old. If you have this information, please do put it in. If not, again, not mandatory, they're optional. If you have the date of the last site test, please put that, but you have to ensure one of these are filled in. If I was to click save and next, it wouldn't allow me to proceed because there's something that's missing. So you could never miss, you know, filling in the mandatory fields. Anything mandatory, if you try to continue, it will stop you. But I'll put down not known for this instance. And you'll go onto the eligibility page, and this is where you'll fill out the eligibility. And again, similar to what I've said on the previous screen, if you put something incorrect, so this patient is under 16, but if I put over 60 and I forgot to tick, you know, seen or not seen, and try to go next, it wouldn't allow me to, because it's saying obviously the eligibility. If I change that, and then it's also got a little red sign for which bit I've missed also. So if we say seen, we can do that. Now, obviously, you might have a different eligibility for them. You can select. If you are going to select anything under here, obviously I can't do that with this patient, but if you're going to not select these general eligibilities up here to do with age or medical conditions, you can go here, which is to do with the benefits in and receipt of, but please ensure one of these boxes are ticked. But again, a bit like what I've been doing, if you forget to do that, so if I untick here, and I was going to say, it's going to bring up an error message to say the patient's age doesn't match, but if I clicked there, it would tell me, you know, I need to let you know whether the benefit is for the recipient or is it for the patient or partner. So you won't be able to move on, so you won't have any rejections without, you know, you filling these incorrectly. It will not allow you to go ahead to the next stage. So press next, you get onto the declaration page. Now, because this patient is under 16, you're never going to the option for patient is always going to be grayed out, so you're never going to be able to tick that. So you select patient, parent, carer, or guardian. You have to put their name in there, but I'm just going to write mum. Now, because it's not the patient, you have to either tick same as patient or put the address in here. So it's optional. If you tick same as patient, if they're at the same address, it will automatically pick that. But if they're at the parents at a different address, you'd put in the postcode, do the search, and it'll do the same thing. It'll find the address, but again, it will not allow you to move across without selecting that information. The next step is to click on sign the declaration. Now, that will generate this QR code. You can use this QR code in two ways, I guess. You can click on it straight from here to open up the signature box, or if you have a tablet or a phone that has a camera, you could take a picture of it, and on your tablet or your phone, it will open up this box there for the patient or the parent, whoever's eligible to sign for it, to sign this. So I'm just going to put a little squiggle in it. But it gives you the details of the patient name, the date of birth. It's pretty much what you have on the physical form, but it's on the system, and the declaration that they have on the form there. You sign it, press accept. It'll tell you it's been saved. Now, if you've done it on a phone or a tablet independent, so let's say you started on a laptop or a desktop, but they wanted to sign it on their phone, it would then generate it on here, even though they've signed it on their tablet or phone separately because you've used the QR code. So they will generate onto here. You'll have a signature, and then you've also got here your claim ID. So you might stop for whatever reason and not continue and need to come back to it another time. You've got a record of the claim ID, but I'll also show you how to search this. If you click save and next, as if we're continuing on, you would fill this in as you would do that's, you know, appropriate to that particular site test or that particular claim. Is there an interval, a retest code that's required because of the interval period? If there is, then you fill this in. If there isn't, then you wouldn't do so. Is the patient referred? Was a new change prescription issued? It depends which is the applicable outcome of the site test. Now, if you take, let's say, new change prescription was issued, then you have the option of, you know, carrying on and not putting a voucher issued, or you can click a voucher is issued, which is usually what I believe takes place, and decide whether it's, you know, at that point you'll know if it's an A voucher, B, and you select the relevant vouchers here. This doesn't calculate any prices or anything for the GOS 3s. It's just so that it knows there's a voucher that's going to get issued. This is where, you know, what we're looking at. So if I was to say there's going to be 2 vouchers, a near and a distance, obviously, if you wanted to include complexes, prisms, tints, you've got that option. And then your performer will sign here. And again, they have the same functionality. They can click, you know, scan the QR code, open up a separate box on their phone or tablet, sign it, and then submit it. Now, I have contractor signatory access, which means sort of my access is contractor and performer. If you have a performer who's not who isn't a contractor, they would only be able to get to this point, and it will stop and it'll save awaiting contractor. And from here, it'll just save it. They won't be able to continue forward. But if you are a contractor who is also a performer, when you click save awaiting contractor signatory, it will move you onto this bit. Whereas a performer will be stuck. There'll be no signature option for the performer to sign here. It's only for the contractor. The contractor can go in later and sign for this as well if they want to. They can do it in bulk. That's up to yourselves there. Now you can sign here and click submit, or you can decide as a contractor, I'm going to bulk sign all my GOS ones at the end of the day and going to create a GOS 3 voucher, and this will take you into the GOS 3 voucher screen. So if you've, on this particular instance, we said there was going to be the GOS 3 vouchers issued off the back of the site test. You click on GOS 3 voucher and it will take you in, and I'm just going to do 1A voucher, but obviously you will know your prescriptions and you'll fill this in. This is how it looks whenever you do the GOS 3. Now, whether you go from the back of a GOS 1 or you go directly into doing the GOS 3 vouchers, and I'll show you that screen also. This is what the prescription screen always looks like. They're always the same. This is always blue. This is greyed out for the SIL, but I believe once you type a number in here, you just have to jump back and put whether it's a plus or a minus. So I'm just going to put the most basic one that I know, one in there. It's probably a very wrong prescription, but we'll find out. And then you can add in, you know, your spheres, your base, your prisms, whatever is applicable. Obviously, you guys are the specialists when it comes to this. When you go through the site test, what does apply, you'll put that in. Have a look at the voucher. Now, if I was to go and say, well, it's a C voucher, for example, and then I sign this to say that's what I'm going to supply and go create a GOS 3 claim, it's going to tell me I'm wrong. It's going to tell me I'm missing things. You know, this is where it'll throw it up for you. So you can't miss it. You know, sometimes we're going through things and if you've forgotten, you can put it in there. So if I put, and then let's see if it lets us do that, and then it'll make you sign it, and it will always have this area grayed out. This will be the performer's details. So whoever logs in, performer or contractor who's eligible to sign as performer, whoever logs in, their details will be here and they'll be grayed out. So we can do create a GOS 3 claim. And then it takes you to the next stage. So this is where you're going to fill in the eligibility again. You choose whether it's glasses or contact lenses. So we'll say glasses, the patient was under 16. Obviously, if you select, a patient in prison or 16, 17 or 18, you need to fill in their details, the college name, the town, seen or not seen, mandatory in all fields. And again, similar process as the GOS one for this section if you're using any of these eligibilities. And then same concept here, signature, but it has to be obviously done for each claim that you do. So if I go sign, click on them again. Obviously, I'm using a mouse, so I'm not very good with signing this, but we'll move on, save and next. And again, if you're a performer and then you've got somebody who's supplying it, this is where you'll get to. You will then fill in and you'll supply the glasses. So it's telling me what I can, but let's say if I'd selected 2A vouchers, then I'd get the option of distance, near and bifocal, but obviously based on the prescription I've filled in, it's only giving the option of distance. Was it new or unchanged? You select the one that you want to select. It's nothing else on here because I haven't filled in any prisms. I haven't filled in any tint details. If it was small glasses, I'd have to tick that and put the mils there. So it can obviously include small glasses pricing, if there are any of the special features. So it's quite intuitive based on what you're going through, what you want, what you filled in for the prescription to what you need to then ensure you complete here, but it won't let you proceed if it feels like you're missing something. It auto calculates the prices based on the current pricing structure. So NHSE will always let PCSE know if there's a price change, and that gets built in the background for each voucher type, each sort of supplement that there is. So it automatically puts it in there. You will fill this part in, the retail cost, if you're going to charge less. So if I wanted to charge them £30, which is less than 41.70, as you can see, the total amount that I should get paid is going to be £30 because I'm overriding the 41.70. But if you've got nothing to change in there, you just leave it as it is and you'll get paid whatever the actual price for that voucher is. You'll select the date that the glasses are being collected. So we're on the 14th. Obviously, if you've got 2 pairs, you'd select both dates. If they're 2 different dates, you do the first one here. You'd save this because you can't submit it until the second pair is collected. And if the second pair is collected a day later, you'd put the second date on. But then the person dispensing it would need to sign again. And then you do save and next. And again, you've got the same QR codes. It applies to each aspect. Patient, parent. It could be somebody different or the same person, but you still have to fill the section in. They have to sign the final declaration as you do on a GOS form. And then you submit this. Now here's your claim ID, which we can search, but once it's submitted, it just confirms that it's submitted and it's gone for you. Now we can search that claim as well. We've started that GOS one. So if you wanted to go in here, you click on that screen for search and the first option to search any of the GOS types. If we look at today's date, there we go. And you can just, obviously, if you're not doing excessive amounts of claim, because there's a limit to how many claims a search function will allow you to see, you can only see maximum of 200 claims. So if I'd done 200 claims in one day and I did a search of that day and I'd done, I don't know, 250 that day, it wouldn't bring all of those claims up. So you can narrow your search down, you can narrow it by the performer that's done it. Now it will only give you the performers that are registered under the account. Narrow it down by the surname of the person, claim status, was it accepted? You can do various different searches on here. The claim type, the date of birth if you have it, and obviously if you've kept a record of the claim number. Now, as you can see, the GOS 3 has gone through. The GOS 1, we left it at a waiting contractor stage. So we can either sign it here or we can bulk sign it, but I've only got one claim, so I don't think it's going to let me bulk sign. But if I try to click create a GOS 3 voucher, it's not going to let me. All of that button's still there because I went directly through. If you had decided to accept your GOS 1 and this had changed to accepted status, that button will remain there for you to be able to create your GOS 3 off the back of it so you don't have to duplicate the work. But you can go in from here if you wanted to, and whoever the contractor signature is, because if there's just one, sign it and submit it, and then that's it. That's your claim done. And it'll be accepted at accepted status. So that's your GOS 1s and your 3s if you do the GOS 3 off the back of the GOS 1. You can do your GOS 3 separately. Now, I believe normal practice is if you are going to issue a voucher, you do it off the back of a GOS 1. So you can do them in conjunction like that. Alternatively, you do have the option of just clicking straight onto a GOS 3. Now, the instances we use that is at the moment, so we're trying to put fix in place for this, but at the moment, if let's say you had a site test with the patient and a GOS 3 was issued, let's say last year, they're eligible for a second one. The system already thinks that a GOS 3 has been issued off the back of a GOS 1, so it's not allowing you to do that direct link at the moment, but that is going to be fixed shortly, so you will be able to still do that. But at the moment, somebody would have to go into here and fill in the patient details again from the beginning. So you'd put the name, you'd put the date of birth, and you'd move from there. So that's your GOS 3s. I won't bore you by going through them again. Your GOS 4s, again, it's pretty similar or the same in essence. When you look at the screens, you know, your beginning of them are pretty much exactly how your paper is. I'm just using the same address and postcode for us, but you can use obviously whatever's appropriate at that point. But let's have a look. So 2020. And all of that is exactly the same as you have on your GOS 1 applications. The only thing with your GOS 4 is obviously if they're over 16, you would have to get an authorization code as you would do from BSA, but you also put, I don't know, a reason if they're over 16 here, lost glasses or whatever it may be, so that it's, you know, there's a reason for why the GOS 4 is going through. So we save and next, and it's the same concept. Pretty much the only difference you'll see, which I will show you shortly. So signature, the same. Then the performance, then the supply section. So what is it that you're doing? You know, are you replacing the pair of glasses? Are you repairing an element of them? Now, if you're replacing, you will have to fill in the prescription. If you're repairing, but you're only repairing a frame side of it, you don't have to fill in the prescription. So that can stay blank because that doesn't have a bearing on, you know, the price of the frames. You're not replacing a lens. But if you were, let's say, replacing one lens and, you know, the front frame, would need to fill in the prescription. If I was to put, I don't know, we repaired, I take right, and then whole frame. So it's not going to be worried about anything, but I forget to fill in my prescription. Taking the right things, the distance. It's, you know, it's having a look at it and you're thinking, right, okay, well, she's not filled in the prescription here. We haven't got any of the information filled in, so we can't, you know, I haven't got a voucher code here either. So can't really proceed. If I try to sign and go save and next, like, no, you can't. So fill, you know, you need to fill it in, because you might think, right, I'm just preparing, you know, you've ticked the box, you might tick it in error, you might not, you know, it's quite good in that sense. It's not going to let you make a mistake and move on and then reject it at a later point. It will tell you right there and then, right, you need to fix this now. So let's have a look. Now it's added up my totals for me. And again, if I wanted to retail down anything, I can retail it down in here. And you know, if you want to, is it your glasses, your contact lenses? What is it that you're retailing down? Obviously, if you don't want to retail it down, then you won't do. But if you do, you have that option there. And then you sign. And then you know, you get to a certain point, you can also cancel the claim, you can refer it back to draft, you can save it for later. There's all your options on here. You can go back if you felt you missed something and you wanted to change something. But once I've corrected the errors that I made, it will only let me go forward. If I don't correct them, it won't let me go forward. So again, it's the same thing. Sign the declaration, your claim ID's at the bottom. And submit. And that's my GOS 4 done. We don't get many GOS 5s, but you still obviously have the functionality for GOS 5s, and it works in the same way. The only difference is, I will show you. apologies if this is quite repetitive because the forms are pretty much the same as one another. At the beginning, they have a similar format. So is it the patient, the parent, the partner? You'd select, you'd put the voucher, the HC2 reference here, you'd tick the appropriate boxes. Obviously, that's only you have to do a domiciliary, I believe, and then you tick that. You'd put the reason why they weren't able to attend. You can put ethnicity. It's not mandatory, but it's optional on all of them. But let's say we're saying it's the patient. So I'm just going to put that. So I've forgotten to tick one of these boxes. So I have to make sure I tick them. And like any of the screens, it will always say if you forget something. So when you tick patient, so we haven't looked at an example of patient, you don't need to tick same as patient because it's their address. It automatically generates it for you. You don't have to fill it in again. So when it's a patient, it's quite straightforward. There's no need for that. However, if it's a carer or a parent or guardian, you need to ensure, but they still have to follow the same rules of signing it. Same QR codes, signatures. And then same concept here, you know, was the patient referred? Was a voucher issued? If you did the, you know, had to do as it a domiciliary, what patient was it? What's the voucher? Is it an early retest code? And you'd sign it. And this is the only different element on here. You would have to put the actual value of the GOS ones. So I might need somebody to remind me what they are because I don't remember them off the top of my head when I get there, but I will go through this. So if we put, I don't know, statements issued, no prescription was required. We didn't do a domiciliary side of it. There was no early retest code. Don't need that one. It should accept lower one, but it usually asks you to put the actual voucher value in there. There should be nothing in there because I've not ticked domiciliary. So this is less, that value was less than the actual value is at the moment. Normally you'd put the actual value that you have, but as long as it's lower, either the lower or the actual site test, you can't put highest. If I go back, let me revert this, 2314. So I'm just going to go back into searching my GOS 5. So I'll find my GOS 5 from today. So, you know, if you have that sort of brain freeze like I have, you can do that. You can revert it back to draft, go search for it. It's in there in draft format. Go back in, just have a look. Have I got everything else correct here? Is it all okay? Yep, that's all the same. I don't want to change any of that. Is there anything here that I need to change? But because I reverted it to draft, that's the only thing to be aware of. I have to get it signed again. So before reverting anything to a draft, check if, you know, the patient's still there. If you do it afterwards, then you're going to have to call them back in. So try where you can avoid reverting it to a draft unless you've got the patient still there and you think, oh, I filled in the wrong thing. Let me correct this right now. But if I carry on, let's save that. So if I do. Now, like if I tried putting £25 in, it shouldn't let me. I'll put 14. It's okay. So it won't let you try to claim more than what the voucher is, but it doesn't automatically pull that figure. Unlike the GOS one, it doesn't expect you to put a value in there. On a GOS 5, you would need to put the value in as we've done. So thank you for providing me with that. And then you sign it and that claim is now submitted. So that's my GOS 5 done. Now, I don't know if anybody does any GOS 6s. They're slightly different. So if you do domiciliary visits, you don't have a screen for GOS 6 vouchers. You do have the GOS 6 screen here, but you have to create a GOS 6 PBN. So there's different rules, obviously, for those of you that do domiciliary, where you've got 1 or 2 patients, you give 48 hours notice minimum. 3 or more, you need to give a minimum of 3 weeks up to 8 weeks. So if I was doing this now, I would just fill in and this would be for yourselves as well, you would fill this in, would do your PVN beforehand. So if you wanted to visit a patient or multiple patients, you would do your pre-visit notification up front and ensure that you can visit that patient. So let's say I want to visit 2 people, and what day are we on? 14th. So, and when you do 1 or 2 patients, so that's the 40-hour notification, it's 48 hours. So the weekends are not included in that. When you do 3 or more, the weekends are included in that calculation of time. So if I'm doing this PVN right now, if I want to visit the patient, the earliest I can do for 48 hours is going to be, I believe, the 18th after 6 o'clock. So to be safe, I'm going to do the 19th. So if I do 19th of the 9th, 23, and pick the time that you're going to visit. Everybody visits the same address when I do these tests. So, and then you pick your premises. Now, these are the only premises that are accepted in accordance to what we've been given as instructions from NHSE. If you have a premises that is not one of those, so that's not a day centre, that's not a home, nursing home, residential home, sheltered home, a PVN can't be accepted on that basis. It has to be one of these premises. So let's assume I'm picking that. And as soon as you click Save Address, this is going to generate your PVN reference. You need to keep a note of that. But again, there's a way of searching those references as well. So whenever we've done it internally, we keep a record of them. Here's your PVN reference. And now it saves it like that, but there's no patient details, so you can't really move on. You still need to add your patients in here. So you would put your patients in this section. You scroll down from that bit. It's created your PVN reference. It's ready for you to do the PVN because that's your header. And then you just do your first patient. So if I do, I don't know, number 6, 14, 9, 3. Again, it's the same thing. Add your date of birth in, whatever the appropriate date of birth is. If you know the site test, if you know the NHS numbers, if you know there's going to be a need for an interval period because, I don't know, you did their previous site test, whether they were able to come into the store and you know they've been in, but now they're not, and you need to do a GOS 6. You have those functionalities and you can do that on your PVN. Now, I know sometimes we get told, oh, well, I don't know if it's going to be necessary. This is if you know it's just purely shorter than the standard interval and you know you need to see them. They've said that, oh, my site test has deteriorated. You don't know the exact, I believe, the exact retest code, but you put one in so that the PVN can be accepted on that basis that you are going to be visiting then the shorter interval period. When you do the claim, you put the correct retest code. So you could put this as 1 here. It's not going to carry that through to the GOS 6 and say that is the reason why you've done it. If that's the initial conversation you've had and you think that's the retest code and why we're going in earlier than we should have, that's what you use in that instance. But when you go in, you assess them, you will know clinically what the actual reason is that you've had to do the site test early, and you can do that there. But obviously, I shouldn't need one because this patient hasn't been seen before because I've just made them up. So save patient, and you will see them added here. And you can amend, edit, delete whilst the PVN is still active like this and you haven't processed the GOS 6 through. So if I add my next patient, and first, and it saves that. Now, if I try to add a third one, like, don't get me wrong, I could carry on adding as many patients as I wanted. It's not going to stop me because it's going to be like, right, okay, well, you've not submitted the PVN yet, so we're not applying the rules at the moment. But let's say I add 3 patients. Now, I could continue pressing add and add and add, and it's not going to do anything. But when I come down here, and how many of the patients I've added, if I click submit, it's going to say, well, no, you've got more than 2 patients, so you need to give a minimum of 3 weeks notification. So you can't make that error, and if it brings up that message, it's telling you can't do that. So I can delete this patient off. And now if I submit, my PVN's been accepted. So PVN's gone through. If you want to now go ahead and proceed with that, you've got search for an existing PVN, and then you've got substitutions as well if that was required. But I made a note of the PVN, and as simple as that, I could put the PVN reference in here and click search. But if you didn't make a note of the PVN, that's my count, and it will always bring up the organisation that you're doing this under, the date of visit, if you know that, from and to, so you'd always have to put from and to. The notification date, you can do the search on that basis. Was it accepted, wasn't it? you've got that functionality to play around with what you want, the premises postcode. So I know I've done it today. And if I search, it brings up the same PVN because I've only done one. So from here, you would go into this and you can either amend the details if you find, oh, actually, I need to amend some of the information. I put the date of birth wrong or something like that. You can amend that information. You can cancel the PVN. And if you click cancel, it will ask you if you're sure. Once you've cancelled it, then you'd have to resubmit a brand new one. And then you open this up, and from here, it tells you your patient. So let's say you want to do your GOS, you know, today was my visit date. I click create GOS 6. If you bear with me, this requires a little bit of messing around with some of the background system. I'll try to see if I can do the site test for you and show you. But in essence, the site test is pretty much similar to how you do your GOS ones. It's just now you have to ensure that you put in your, you know, whether it's first, second or third patient. Message my IT colleagues just to see if they can, for the test purposes, change the date for me. We can't normally do this on normal systems, but for test purposes, I think usually they can mess around with little bits for us, so I can show you as an example. And let me try going in again. GOS 6. So, like I said, I have the PVN reference, search it. Yeah, so they've been able to change my date to the 14th, which means I can do that today. So if I go in now, create my first patient, click on that. Obviously, you've got your basic information in there. If you want to add references, you can do previous surnames, titles, feel free to do so. But it pulls whatever you put in your PVN into here from the patient name. You'd put in here, you know, what the reason is. I normally just put test, but you would put the reasoning, you know, is it mobility issues, whatever their clinical reason is that they can't come to an actual practice. Save and next. And the rest of it pretty much very similar to a GOS one. Is the patient over 60? Is it one of the other reasons? Or is the patient in receipt of pension credit? You select what you need it to be. So if I click scene, you know, save and next. And again, same concept here. If it's a patient that they can sign, perfect. You don't have to fill in the address, it'll generate. If it's not, it's a carer or a guardian. Could be a parent if they're younger. Obviously, this patient's I've put as 1930, but I'll use the patient in this instance. Sign, accept. But all the screens should hopefully work in sequence to how your forms work at the moment. And this is where I mentioned the early retest code. So obviously I showed you an example where you could put one in. It wouldn't auto-generate in here. If you went in and thought, oh, that this is an early retest because, you know, I don't know, it's the 3.2 or one of the other reasons, you'll know clinically, you can change that at any point to the most appropriate one. Obviously, with this one, you could put whether it's just one patient at the domiciliary or multiple. If you tick multiple, you have the option selecting first, second or third. It doesn't auto select any of these, so you have to ensure you select them. If you select that one, it will only give you the option of first. It will grey out the others because that is obviously one patient at the property. You know, was the patient referred? Was a new prescription issued? And a bit like the GOS one I showed you, if you were to tick a new prescription was issued and a voucher and, you know, select your voucher codes here, when you carry on forward, it will ask you if you want to create a GOS 3 voucher, and you can create it off the back of that. So I leave it at that moment, I can show you, and then you can add your supplements in there. Now, it auto selects this box because you've ticked first patient, second or third, depending on what you tick. So it'll either take this box or that one. However, you need to ensure you tick this so you can claim the site test as well. That you will have to do yourself. And technically, I believe you can't just claim a domiciliary visit on its own. So you'd have to ensure you select that box there. If there was any difference in addresses, sign it, save awaiting contract signatory. Wait for that to carry on. Again, I have access as a contractor and performer for test purposes, but you may not have that for everybody in your stores. So if a performer does it, then the contractor will go in and sign it themselves. Sign, create a GOS 3 voucher if you wanted to, or submit. Name submitted. And then if you wanted to go back in, have a look at your GOS 6 and create a GOS 3 voucher off the back of the GOS 6. You've gone into your search screen, you've submitted that voucher, and you can create your GOS 3 from here. So you click create GOS 3 and it'll start your GOS 3 voucher from there. just like what I showed. And obviously the PVN that I showed you had 2 patients on it. So once you've done one claim, you just need to go back in, put the PVN reference in again, open, and create your next person. If I try to create the same one, it won't let me because I've already created the GOS6. So obviously just ensure you know which one you've done, but again, it won't let you make the error of creating that same GOS6 again. That's your GOS6s. That's pretty much all the GOS types. I don't know if any of you use CTs. It won't let me complete this, but if any of you are putting CTs, it's a very straightforward process. You click on the CT screen, it tells you the period it's covering, you sign it, save and next. I've already done one for test purposes, so it probably blocked me on it, but we'll see. You sign it again and submit, and it'll either allow it or it won't because I've done one already. But usually if you're a contractor, the contractor signs it, so the performer does the first part, the contractor does the second part, and it allow it to go through. So that's the simplest sort of process we have. And then I guess finally, you've got your statements. I don't have many statements on the dummy account because we don't really generate statements for it, but we did do a test one. Now that hopefully is not going to look like that for you. This will show you obviously total NHS is always 0 now because we're delegated to ICB, so NHS are not funding it, it's the ICBs themselves. So it's the total net amount that you're going to be paying. This was a test scenario we did with lots of deductions on it, but if you already have access to this, you'll be seeing these statements and it will have a breakdown of all your GOS types, any adjustments that are being made on the adjustment screen, your point of services, your levy payments, and then your net sum at the bottom as well. It's just a bit slow, as you may all be aware, when we're loading this, but that was pretty quick for me today. My internet doesn't normally like me, so as you can see, like again, you will normally have a lot more vouchers for you. This, for my test, I only had one claim, loads of cancelled claims for deductions to test that out, but you'll be able to visualize and see that as it is. And then finally, you can print it off as well. So you've got your print, you can either, do an expanded version or collapsed version, download it as a PDF or download it as a CSV. The CSV will be more if you wanted to search things, Control F, but PDFs as well. If you want to print a PDF version, it's entirely up to yourself. I'll download it or print it for you. And I think that's it. I think that's like a whistle-stop tour of all of it, unless I've missed anything.
I think that was really, really helpful, Salma. That was you went into so much detail there, so thank you. I hope everybody found it useful. So looking at the time, we are going over the expected length of the webinar. So we will try and answer a couple of questions now. I appreciate there are quite a lot of questions in the chat. Anything that we can't answer, I will try and get those in the follow-up email that we send, possibly next week once we've done the YouTube edit for the video and everything. But yeah, so I'll just make a quick start. If you can just stay on, Sam, because these are some questions that were sent in before the webinar. So the first question that we've got was, can I bulk upload signatures at the end of the day?
A contractor can bulk sign, like you said at the beginning, for a GOS 1, 5 and a 6, depending on the multiple, but you'd have to do it under each category. So you'd have a GOS 1 option and you can bulk sign them, but I don't believe the others can bulk sign, and the site GOS 3s and GOS 4 vouchers can't be bulk signed.
Thank you. And what if the practice has internet connectivity issues on the day? What would they do in that scenario?
Yeah, this is being looked at by NHSE, so I don't have a specific answer for you at the moment. So with mandating online, that's one of their, I guess, things on the list of what is going to happen should you have internet connectivity or if there's a system outage. So you've got two sort of scenarios, and they're going to issue instructions on how we can deal with those. So if our system goes down our end, they will give us instructions on how we can support you, and we're hoping to update the system to support you in that basis. But what happens if you have connectivity issues? So we're waiting on NHSE's instructions on those, and we'll share those as soon as we have them.
Fantastic, thank you. I know that question was asked quite a bit in the chat as well about what happens if obviously they can't submit on the day and things. So we'll look forward to getting the information from NHSE.
Absolutely.
And what happens if they don't have a PCSE online login details?
We can arrange that. So you've been given the portal inquiries email address. They're usually the people we'd go to directly to get the access set up. So if you just provide them with your name, your email address, a contact number if you have one, because that sometimes helps, if you have to reset something and someone needs to get hold of you, then we've got somewhere to contact you on, but then they can get you set up and give you the appropriate access that's needed.
Lovely. Thank you, Salma. So that was it with the questions that have come in. Now, obviously, we did plan on doing a live Q&A, but the demo did take a little bit longer than anticipated. I don't know if there was just like 1 or 2 questions that you just want to quickly run over, just so obviously we do get to answer a couple.
The top one, we've kind of said system-wise, we'll have to come back to you guys on. Domiciliary, hopefully I've covered it. But if you do have any questions afterwards, do let us know so we can have a look at if there's any other support for domiciliaries we can provide. There's one here, the third one from Henry, I believe. The system now rejects site test claims if patients have been seen elsewhere and not yet due. Can PCSE allow contractors to check whether the claims are going to be rejected ahead of the visit? That's something we're working on with NHSE at the moment. There's 2 elements. They're looking at what they can do as an interim, because a system change is going to take us probably up until sometime early to mid next year, where it will flag it earlier on in the stage or earlier on in the process rather than at the performer signature stage. So it's being looked at. It's just not a quick fix as it stands. So we're aware of it, and NHS aware of it, and actually working through that currently. Can we access dummy forms for practice? I guess you could do, but you wouldn't be able to submit them if you were to set yourself up. You could probably play around with it to a certain point yourself. So if you set yourself up on PCSE Online, go to a certain point, just do not submit those claims through. When you get to the end, cancel it and use fake names, dummy names and such, so it doesn't go through and get paid. I'd probably recommend doing that, because when you get to the end, it's literally the final stage. So you've got your calculations and everything on there. So that might be one way of doing it. Can we submit both paper and electronic submissions up to the end of the year while getting used? Yes, you can submit both paper and electronic up until the end of the year. As Debbie mentioned, it's the point of service date. So like if you did a site test on 31st of December, you sent that in January, would still accept that paper form. But there's a clear cut-off. Any new transactions or any site test or point of service from the 1st of January 2024 will not be accepted on paper. But you can do so if you set yourself up, you can send both through. That's absolutely fine. And I'll stop there and then we'll have to look at the rest of them. Sorry.
I think we could have done with an extra hour for the webinar. Couldn't wait to go through all the questions. I do want to thank everybody for joining. Now, as you can see on screen, I just wanted to share our contact details with you. So if you do need to get any further information, the PCSE Online website is there. We've also got an online inquiries form, and that's the address on screen. Or alternatively, if you do need to contact us, then we do have a customer support centre. Now, that will be it for us. Like I say, thank you for joining and attending the webinar. Like I say, I will be sending out follow-up email to you. So hopefully we'll get all the questions answered that we didn't have time to answer this evening, and we'll get those in writing for you. But yeah, so I'm going to let you all go. I hope you enjoy the rest of your reading, and thanks for attending. And thank you to Salma and Kat for supporting in the background.